For the past, an NBC News special report. Here's Hallie Jackson.
Good afternoon. We are coming on the air with breaking news. Jimmy Carter, the 39th president, has died in his hometown of Plains, Georgia. Carter was 100 years old, the longest living president in American history. Our Lester Holt remembers his legacy.
My name is Jimmy Carter, and I'm running for president.
He went from being Jimmy Who to winning the White House itself, then struggled with crises overseas and a troubled economy at home. A one-term president whose time as ex-president was the longest.
Thank you all.
Among the most active in American history, becoming the first American president to celebrate his 100th birthday. James Earl Carter Jr., he always went by Jimmy, was born in small-town Plains, Georgia, growing up on a farm without electricity or indoor plumbing. He attended the U.S. Naval Academy, studied nuclear physics, worked in the nuclear submarine program. Carter married Rosalind Smith, a friend of his sister's, and she became his lifelong partner. When his father died, Carter left his military career and went home to run the family peanut farm. But he wanted something more. He got into politics, Georgia state senator, then governor.
I, Jimmy Carter, do solemnly swear.
In the Old South, Carter was something new.
The time for racial discrimination is over.
He attracted national attention.
Would our first challenger enter and sign in, please?
But was still enough of an unknown in 1973 to appear on What's My Line? 1 year later,
I'd like to announce that I am a candidate for president.
After Watergate, the country was ready for a Washington outsider who said America deserved a government as good as its people. A born-again Christian who promised voters, "I will never lie to you."
We now have a projected winner, James Earl Carter of the state of Georgia, elected the next president of the United States.
Carter narrowly defeated Gerald Ford, becoming the first president from the Deep South in more than a century.
I, Jimmy Carter, do solemnly swear.
He started with a common touch, an inaugural walk to the White House, a cardigan sweater to talk to the nation about the energy crisis.
There's no way that I or anyone else in the government can solve our energy problems if you are not willing to help.
He became a champion of human rights.
No member of the United Nations can claim that mistreatment of its citizens is solely its own business.
And the Camp David Accord showed Carter at his best, idealistic, tenacious, leading marathon talks between Egypt's Anwar Sadat and Israel's Menachem Begin, achieving a peace treaty that is still in place today. But closer to home, Carter's inexperience and his distaste for political rough and tumble became serious handicaps. And when the economy tanked, so did Carter's popularity. He seemed to blame Americans themselves.
The erosion of our confidence in the future.
He looked weak, photographed collapsing during a run. And it got worse. In Iran, scores of Americans were taken hostage.
I'm a candidate for president of the United States.
Ted Kennedy announced he would challenge Carter for the nomination. The Soviets invaded Afghanistan, prompting Carter to boycott the Moscow Olympics. Above all, the hostage crisis consumed Carter's final year in office.
Any encouraging news from Iran, Mr. President? No.
A mission to rescue the hostages ended in tragedy.
8 Americans had died, an unknown number of other Americans had been wounded.
It was my decision to attempt the rescue operation. The responsibility is fully my own.
Still hoping for a second term, Carter beat Kennedy, only to face an even more formidable opponent.
I'll bring new hope to America.
Ronald Reagan projected optimism and confidence, and he didn't think much of Carter.
There you go again.
Jimmy Carter lost in a landslide. And though he finally negotiated the release of the hostages, they weren't officially freed until just after he left office. Through it all, Carter was sustained by his faith.
You were faced with some huge crises as president. Did you drop down to your knees and pray?
Often, yes, often. In fact, I prayed more per day, per hour, while I was president than any other 4 years in my life.
and his defeat marked the beginning of a remarkable post-presidency. He established the Carter Center, committed to advancing human rights and democracy. He even got some respect from an old adversary.
You gave of yourself to this country, gracing the White House with your passion and intellect and commitment. For that, Mr. President, I thank you, and your country thanks you.
Carter built houses for the poor. He monitored elections, battled disease, and worked for peace around the world, sometimes at odds with his successors. He wrote dozens of books, and in 2002 was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. An extraordinary ex-president, proud of his years in the White House.
Kept the peace. We never went to war. We told the truth. Never lied to the American people. Never misled the American people. So in general terms, I feel perfectly at ease with my term.
Carter was diagnosed with cancer, determined to beat it while maintaining his typical collected demeanor.
I think I have been as blessed as any human being in the world. Everything's been a blessing for me, so I'm thankful and hopeful.
Despite the diagnosis, he continued building houses alongside Rosalind and marked their 75th wedding anniversary in 2021.
75 years, I can't predict.
Rosalind died 2 years later, marking the longest presidential marriage in history. In 2024, Carter marked another milestone, his 100th birthday, with an outpouring of gratitude for his life of service. He brought that devotion to everything he did for family and for country until the end.
Our Lester Holt remembering Jimmy Carter. I want to bring in our chief Washington correspondent, Andrea Mitchell, who is joining us now on the phone. She knew the former president. And Andrea, you saw so much of his life and legacy there. Surrounded by family, the Carter Center says he died at his home of Plains, Georgia. He's been in hospice there for nearly 2 years. And his kids say he will be remembered as a hero to them and to so many around the world.
Indeed. And I covered the Carter White House and covered him since he left the presidency, and as Lester was recounting and as history will record, he was a great ex-president. Certainly his legacy larger once he left the White House, but certainly in the White House we remember the Camp David Accords, 1979, the signing on the north lawn of the White House. I was on the roof of the Hay Adams Hotel across the way with our then anchor, John Chancellor, and we observed the signing from across the way, and it was just a great moment. And the Camp David Accords certainly set the stage for what has followed for many Middle East agreements and many Middle East tragedies. He was ahead of his time. I've interviewed him in Haiti, in Cuba. He was the great human rights advocate. And then for his 100th birthday, there was a grand celebration, a rock and roll concert in Atlanta. We went down there for nightly news, and it was just an extraordinary outpouring. He was really a man for all seasons.
And a man who's being remembered by so many across the country and around the world as well. Andrea Mitchell, our chief Washington correspondent, joining us now on the phone. Andrea, thank you. That concludes, for now, our NBC News special coverage of the death of former President Jimmy Carter, who has died today at the age of 100, according to his family. We will have much more on his remarkable life and legacy on our streaming network, NBC News Now, and later tonight on NBC Nightly News. I'm Hallie Jackson. For all of us at NBC, thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.